Blue-green SANJI ZORO, a deck that I personally believe is really underrated. I think it's an amazing aggro deck and it's great with tempo, especially when you add the new OP10 support like the Smoker here, which has Banish and it swings twice with our leader effect. Plus, it allows us to stand to Dawn active at the end of our turns. Another amazing support card that I think we've gotten for the deck is the 3-cost VV, which some people say is a trap card, but me personally, I think it works really well if you can play correctly. I think some people just have skill issues. Let's jump into the deck list, let's go through the full guide, but before we do that, don't forget to join the Discord down below for our huge tournament giveaway, which you can hear more about right now. Oh, and in case you also missed it, we are doing a 4-player sim tournament giveaway thingy for celebrating 500 subs. Join in our Discord below. 4 random chosen contestants will enter, only one will win, with the chance of winning an OP09 box or a PBR1 box if you can take me on and win. And with that being said, you can win a box of PBR or even OP09, so thank you guys so much for all the support recently, the subscriptions, everyone joining the One Piece family. I appreciate you so much. Let's get into the games, and today's gonna be a little different. We're gonna be re-watching the games because when I first recorded this, I may have not had my audio on. So now we are good. We have audio on, as you can tell. I hope you like that. If not, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't like my voice either. So let's get into the games. Let's have some fun today and watch these over. As I said, we are re-watching this. As you can see, I was here yapping for a good little bit, but now I'm gonna be yapping again. So you get to hear me talk twice, but you won't actually hear me the first time because I'm not smart. So here we go, guys. Audio is off, not that it matters. We're gonna do the VV style 2x speed if we can figure out how to do that. All right, and as you can see here, we are taking on Blue Boa. So we're gonna sit here and talk about our hand. So let's talk about that first. Of course, we have double smokers and we have the VV. These are the most important new cards to show off for the deck list. So with us going first, this is our usual perfect curve because with VV, we draw on our second turn, putting us to 6 cards. We play out VV on 3, which will allow us to draw 2 new cards. And then we finally leader effect on 7 Dawn, which may not seem good, but personally, I think it's perfect because that's when we really get our tempo and our aggression. We draw the new Jewelry Bonnie, which you will see us showcase in our final matchup. I know I even sit in this video and say, this card sucks. I probably shouldn't use this. And hold up, this guy countered. Why would you counter right there? I'm gonna say that right now. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I would not be countering right there. I would be letting that go, taking that hit, because you can see they only have 2 bodies on the board, no cards, and 5 life. They play out Salome, and I was like, bro, why are you playing this card? So they're cooking up something interesting here. Then I'm like, oh wait, they're playing the Jinbei and the Teach. What are we doing here? So we'll let the man live. I'm not gonna sit here and judge, but he really shows us all of his future attacks because I would counter out of this one with the Bonnie, I'm assuming, because we have 2 carrots and 2 smokers, which usually are really good in this matchup. And then I'm like, how do we get 2 Bonnies, 2 carrots, 2 of these, and now 2 VVs? How did we even do that? We're just gonna swing 5, totally ignoring the buggy because they have 1 card in hand. They should easily take this. You shouldn't block out. You shouldn't give me any cards. And we play out our smoker. We could have stood it on active, but there's no reason to even do that against what we're going against. What 1 cost event are they scared of? So we want to sit here and see what they want to do. They play out another law blocker. So now they have 2 blockers on the board blocking both of our banish swings, I'm assuming next turn. Put a Dawn on leader, and now they just start showing us exactly what they're going to do. I don't think that's right, but we can tell this must be a newer player, which is totally okay. There's no issue with being a newer player. This is how you have to learn the game. They're doing, I would call this a micro aggression deck, where it's just small bodies and they're just swinging really heavily. No cards in hand is kind of crazy. 8 in the face. This is a deck, let me tell you, this is a deck you cannot be scared of dying with. You have to accept that you could die at any moment, but that's why we play so many chump blockers. You'll see at the deck list in the end. Obviously, we play strong cards like Hody Jones as well, where we could sit here and drop Hody Jones on the next turn, tap both their blockers, swing 7, swing 7, banish, swing 8, but that doesn't do too much for us. So I decide against that. We could go double smoker, we could get down the carrot, but I think having more banish and we get a 3rd carrot, and I'm just like, why do we need more carrots here? We're gonna swing 7. I'm like, he's probably gonna block out of this. There's no reason not to block a banish swing, which does suck for him because now you're just losing cards. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna swing at his face because then he gets more cards. So why don't I swing and I show off what we're about to do with the smoker here. We return the VV to hand, stand the smoker as active, they block out of that, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna ignore this. I have banish, so you don't get a card. You keep the Marshal D Teach, which lowers your hand size, sure, do that. And now I'm like, so I can tap this down for 2, right? Stand it on as active, and then put a 5 cost on the board as well. So I'm getting a blocker, I'm getting 2 smokers, I'm set. This is literally the perfect position as this deck. There's not a better spot to be, and I originally thought Boa was going to be really difficult. I think if this was the usual Boa build with all the bouncing and stuff, I think this would be a hard matchup. Jozu would just dominate in this matchup 100%. And now they're sitting here loading up on these little bodies again, and I'm like, oh, for real? Well, what would you do in this situation? The Leaf one is active, so I'm like, they're playing counter events, really interesting. And look at this. I'm gonna counter this with only 1k counters, which may look stupid. It may not look smart at all, but I think it's actually really good because we have the VV to reload, basically. There's so many cards in hand that we just don't need right now. So if I'm just gonna draw more cards, I'm just gonna draw more cards. There's also merit in the next turn that I could just play down the 7-drop Hody Jones, and if I had a 2 cost on the board, I could just bounce that. I could have just took the Boa swing, something like that, but I think just reusing the VV and prolonging the game, we're really safe to do that because they don't have blockers, they have 2 cards in hand, and I'm like, well, let's swing in first, see what they want to do, because do we even need to draw a card at this point? Probably not, but there's also no reason to risk it because we don't know if they're playing Gavel, if they have a 4k counter basically from that. We're not playing around that, so why not just draw more cards? And that's what we do. So we would get to Standard Dawn as active. We're not even going to go for game here. We have 5 Dawn now, so we can play around. I was like, can we do Tashigi and VV? Looks like no, so we're just going to play down Carrot, freeze their biggest body, so we're going to swing 7 again. Another banished target. They were playing Love Beam, which is really interesting, but we tap down their biggest body, which is good, but it's a 2k character, and I think that's just wraps unless you have double Usopp Rush, and we had 0 counter in hand. So now you see them split here with the buggies, and when you do the math, 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 10, that's what, 19k between 3, so you can only go 7. That's not really good, so we're just going to take these, bait them in, and be like, hey, don't swing at my bodies. Not that it would have mattered, but it was the end of the game. There's nothing they could do. They left no Dawn active. Even if he had 2 4k counters in hand, we were fine. So GG's to our opponent. That was the Boa matchup. Really interesting build, but I say here, I was like, you're playing cards that I just think aren't good. I think there's different things we should be building here for Boa. So I didn't say that to him or anything. Don't think I'm being disrespectful, but I definitely think Boa would be a more difficult matchup, and it's definitely better with the usual Warlord package. Again, they were learning the deck and probably just learning the game. So again, be judgment free in the comments, guys, and just trying to give some general support here. Now we get into the actual good games. My face is a little off here, so we're going to try to match that while we get our hand. We get the VV again. I'm telling you, this is a showcase for this VV card right here, because I think we get it in all 3 games that we play. So on 3, we're going to play VV. We see them drop the Raid, meaning they probably have little Reiju on their next turn. So my thought process against Reiju that a lot of people don't think about is cards that have limits, like the 5 cards and stuff. I want to give them more cards in their hand so they don't get the value. So it's one of those, if they take this life, I'm okay with it and giving them more cards. So there's always merit in not swinging sometimes, swinging sometimes. A good reason to swing is because if they end up having 7, 8 cards in hand, for 1, I can play Pudding, and for 2, I can make sure they don't get their full Reiju effect. So we're going to sit here, we're just going to swing 5. There's always merit in just swinging 8 there. That's why I'm trying to bring that up, though, because you could just swing 8, make sure they don't get any Reiju effects without playing 2 characters on the board, so they need to play 2 costs on the next turn to get anything actually out of the Reiju, because they would then have 7 cards in hand. We swing 5 and they take it. I'm interesting. I'm not going to sit there and judge, but I probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't have done that. And we don't really have a good 5 cost yet, so we have the blocker Rosinante. They play out Porsche. Porsche is going to be a really good option and would have hit them for that Dawn count that I needed. Now they got the Reiju. They draw for leader effect from the Porsche. They have 7 cards, and I'm like, well, you don't get your draw. So I don't know if that was the best option there, because drawing right there with the Reiju is going to be so much better later in the game, so I don't know if that's the card I would have developed. They discard a Porsche, which Porsche is one of the strongest cards in the deck, which makes me think, hey, they probably have more of those because there's no reason to get rid of it. We give them a 2k counter because we can't give them our 1k blocker. We need that on the board. So it looks like we're probably just going to swing 5 and develop the Doflamingo, which I think is pretty smart. Looks like exactly what we're going to do there. Swing 5, develop the Rosinante or the Doflamingo blocker, and just call it a day, because we can get our rested characters if we need to, especially in the future. It's going to be really good to have a blocker. And this is a very technical turn because of what we've seen them draw. Earlier, you may not have noticed, but we did see them grab an Ichiji, meaning they probably have a baby Ichiji in hand, or we see them grab one from this search right here, and they didn't play it on the last turn, so we have to think about this. If I block out, right, I get a free block, amazing. But then when he plays out this Ichiji, and we're assuming he may have another Porsche, because you do not discard Porsche in this matchup, in this deck at all. Porsche is just so strong, giving you 2 lethal bodies on the board. So if I block out, he gives us minus 2k. So I need to be okay taking damage at this point because I need a body on the board, or my leader effect is null and void. I have nothing on the board to hit any swings or clear any bodies, and I'd much rather take some more cards to hand than dealing with that. I would rather be the opposite end of what I said earlier. So what I say here is I can't block out. I can't, because even if he does portion to a Chi-Ji or just a Chi-Ji's, it's a 7k that minuses 2 to my blocker, making sure we can't just get the free block out, which they could have done first to guarantee it, or what they're trying to do is show me, hey, I want to clear your board, I want to take cards from your hand, and it would turn it into a 4k. I don't want to deal with that, so we counter out of this one, we'll probably counter out of this one as well, and then probably take the other two, because again, 3 swings plus the Chi-Ji, I couldn't counter out of all that. Even if you made that a 4k, I could not counter out of but 1 swing because I only had 1 2k. So it wouldn't be worth it for me, in my opinion. And I hope that makes sense to you guys. He does play down the Chi-Ji here, cheating out the Chi-Ji here, meaning they give -2 to the blocker, exactly as we expected, making it a 4k. And there we go. We're going to take 2 swings. It's just part of where we're at now, but we know we have a blocker in hand. We now have a 2k, and we get the smoker. So we have to decide, how do we do this? Can we go aggressive? Do we go for clearing board? And I think we decide based off of our swing. So we're going to choose to usually swing first here. We are looking over the blocker, both blockers, the Mihawk and the Doflamingo, as both awesome targets. The Mihawk can restand with our leader effect if we do swing 7, and the Doflamingo in our hand or on the board can also restand itself if we have 2 or more rested characters. So we just have to keep in mind that we have a bunch of big characters to restand, but we don't have a lot of small characters right now. We haven't seen them in this game. So I think we're going to decide to swing first. Swing 6, will you give me a card? Which usually, as a Reiju player, I would give you a card there. So I'm like, if you're going to take 6, take the other 6. I want a card in my hand. I want to restand this. I get the VV. So we were going to play down the smoker, but we have to think about this. And I'm like, I think this is just the better option to kind of filter. We have 2 Hody Jones, and just know that discarding a Hody Jones to a good player tells them you have 2 Hody Jones. Every time they should know that, because in any matchup, that is your green finisher. That is the card that wins you the game. And so we're actually talking about in a few moments that we may play down the Zoro. And we're talking about the blocker situation from earlier. Now that we have 2 blockers, they can only -2 to one of the blockers if that's the way they go, if they choose to slam down more Chi-Jis. We see them play the Reiju, which allows them to draw 2 for Reiju and 1 for leader effect, putting them back up to 7 cards. They discard 4 Germa stage to find more cards. I think they find another Chi-Ji here, and we're like, holy cow, now we get a free block. Because if they -2 to the Doflamingo, right, we're okay with that because we have a 7k blocker. If they swing into this, we just give them a 2k. So now I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, I'll just give you a 2k. It doesn't bother me. You have to stack, you have to play out another Chi-Ji and do all of this, and they go for Black Maria, which is honestly great in this situation for them, putting them to 7 Dawn, 9 on their next turn, meaning they can play out a lot more characters. And I'm like, well, this is a deck that can't handle Zoro. And if they can handle it, it takes their full turn, meaning we should be safe to play out Zoro, which you do see in this situation is very good, especially in this Reiju matchup that can't handle Zoro, and why we do play it. So I'm talking about, well, it doesn't matter what you do. I'm probably going to either clear your whole board or kill you. So you better figure this out quick, especially knowing that we do have Hody Jones and we're going to 10 Dawn our next turn. They play out another Chi-Ji here, drawing a card and getting Rush Body and giving -2k to our blocker. And at this point in the game, remember earlier how we didn't want to get rid of the blocker? Well, now we can because we have another blocker. We have a 9k. We have an actual board developed. So this is going to be our chump blocker in this situation, while our Mihawk is going to be our future lethal swinger once we get to the later stages of the game, while also giving us a blocker on the board. Meaning that we can swing and do this, and then we're like, oh man, 2 of them. So now it's a super chump blocker, so we can counter out of these smaller swings. Or no, we take the free block here, because now when he does these 7 swings, if he swings into this, that's only 1 card. But if you don't, you're not getting as much. So he's like, I'm just gonna go face. So we'll give him a 1k VV here, not too worried about it. Cat, I need you to move. We're trying to do a video here for the people of the One Piece family. 7, take it. Oh well, not too stressed about it. Swing again. We're going to take it. I think we should take... No, we counter here. Sorry. Now we counter out of this one, and then we chump block the next one because it will be an 8k swing. There's nothing they can do with that 1 Dawn. They don't play Gavel or anything weird. So we're just going to accept where we're at. We're at 1 life here. We now have only 6 cards in hand. The VV could technically draw us 2 cards if that's the route we want to go. We're looking at it as the blockers, what they can do for us. With Hody Jones work here, Hody Jones will not work here, but it will be a great finisher, and we should be able to clear the board here. So we're talking about maybe Carrot, maybe VV would help us draw. Carrot would freeze a body in case they do counter out of their characters. So I think we need to decide based on what actually gets out there. So VV would draw us 2, we bounce it back, play out Carrot, freeze a character, get to restand our Mihawk, keeping us a blocker, while swinging 3 9K swings is what it looks like, is what I would assume I do here. And we do go for the draw first because it's the only way to work with our leader effect. We get the Duval, a 2-cost chump blocker, and that's really good. That is very good. So now we could technically, this is crazy. This is crazy what we could do here. We could play out Duval, play something else, cheat the VV back, play out VV. There's some combinations. So we'll swing 5 and a 7, say, what do you want to do? Showing that we are going for clearing the board. We are going to clear your board. That is the goal. I don't want to give them more cards in hand here. So we choose, we can put 2 Dawn here, swing 7 into the GG, just getting 1 card out of hand, but 1 card is better than 0. And I'd rather not give them an extra card because we're not going for game here. We are not going for game. We don't need to. We are completely safe because we have 2 blockers, or we have a blocker in hand. So we should be safe. Even if he can get out of one of these, he would need to get out of 2 of these to even put lethal on the board, possibly. And that's also with stacking Dawn and Black Maria. So he takes that one. We're like, cool. Countered out of this one with 2 2Ks, meaning that there must not be other counters or it's all 2K. So either way, they were in it or they weren't. We have 2 extra Dawn for the Duval here. We get to stack to the top, meaning we get to draw 2K counters. And we now know everything we would draw from the VV if we have to counter out aggressively and keep drawing cards and prolonging the game. So we have 2 blockers on the board. We have 2 2Ks coming towards us and a smoker. So we know that the counter's still there. We can draw more cards. We have a solid 2, 4, 5, 6, 7K counter. And their best bet here would, in my opinion, be Niji because it would bounce back our Duval to hand and they would have to go for lethal there. But then they still have to split with the Black Maria while also playing out bodies, which do cost Dawn. So now you're swinging 6, 7, something like that. And so that doesn't make sense. That's how we know we're safe, even if they do bounce back the Duval. If they do more than that, we just take the biggest swing, or we either take the biggest swing, counter out of the smallest swings, block the other swings. We have the chump blocker for the biggest swing, so we're just in a safe position. And I'm like, they could technically, I was like, oh, they have all 4 Chi-Chis in the trash. Nope, they still had another one. So they were playing 5 Chi-Chis in this matchup, it looks like. That may be possible, but I'm not quite sure. It definitely felt like that. They have Houndblaze, and I'm like, literally, I was losing my mind here. I was like, dude, they are teching Houndblaze in this deck, and it worked so freaking well in that situation. So now we have a 5K blocker instead of 7K. They have a 10K at GG. They have 3 Dawns still left, so they could go 7 into face, 8 into face, 10 into face, and just call it a day. Try to win the game there because it's either you win or you don't for us, and we don't have a way to give this banish. We're giving them cards in hand, so we're at the point where we're like, I don't know. So now we're mathing it out, showing that it would be 7, 8, 10 if they wanted to go for lethal. So we could take this, it would force out our blocker anyways, and then we can counter out of something, because we have the counter, we have 6K counter, we have a card we're drawing that could possibly have counter. No, we have 7K counter, I just said that, I don't know what I'm doing even. But this one is definitely one that I think we should counter out of. There's no reason to take aggressively, just in case they have some crazy stupid 1-cost event. We get rid of the blocker saying, hey, we are winning next turn or we're not. There's no other story to it, nothing else we can do. They swing 8, we're like, we'll take that. We get 1K more counter, so now we're sitting on a solid 5K counter, forcing us to block out here and basically just say, hey, we got it or we don't. We got to just go for game. Meaning that if we look at our Dawn split, we can put 4 on leader, and then I'm like, let me explain something. So I don't get to show you because I can't see exactly what they're drawing up, but I remember the situation. When they used their Germa Kingdom on the last turn, we saw them grab a Reiju, right? So we know 1 card in their hand is a 1K counter. I was about to swing 9, but I can leave that extra Dawn for Zoro's 3 swings here because they don't have something to bottom deck Zoro. They don't have something to do anything that would stop us. So we're gonna swing 8 because it's guaranteed. So you can't really understand that without being able to see the chat and everything, which I can't see because my big head's in the way. So now we get that extra 1K on Zoro, meaning we can swing 30 instead of 12, giving us that 1 extra card, that perfect number of 9 or 7, 9, 11, 13, meaning it would have to be 5 cards in this with 4 2Ks and 1 1K. Meaning, you see here, they had the Reiju, they had the Foxy, they had 8K counter, so if we would have swung any 7s or anything like that, we would technically possibly lose, because then we would have to drop a 7-drop Hody Jones, swing with that, swing 3 times with Zoro at a 9K, and just kind of hope. So it was a win either way, but you never know in those situations, and literally you can pull 3 2Ks out of life. You really can. So we could have easily lost that, knowing that they did have 1 2K and 1 1K, so we did take that into consideration. That was a good game. We're going to the next one. And here we go. This is a long one. It's against Purple Luffy, a deck that is very strong. We're trying to decide if we keep this. We shouldn't keep this. It's great for countering, but not for getting bodies on the board that help us in this matchup. And we get the VV, we get the Pudding, which Pudding is so instrumental in this deck and so oppressive in blue. Because you have to think about this. A 4-drop, I can put a Dawn on it, swing 5, stand it back up, or I can bounce it back to my hand to reuse it later. So in a matchup against Purple Luffy, who is always taking his own life, and don't get me wrong, this guy kind of low rolls in this matchup, but the Pudding definitely helps. It puddings us in the best situation. I don't have many friends, but that's a different conversation. I have you, the One Piece family, to watch these videos, and I wonder why sometimes. But anyways, we are going second. They are getting their perfect curve here. They play the Law. They grab an Onami from Life, which you see flash on the screen for a second. And we have 2 Dawn. What can we do? Nothing. We have a 2-cost event in our hand, possibly, my friend. Knowing that we do not. They take the Life probably to ramp up because there's no reason not to as a Purple Luffy. And usually play something on the board. But I was sitting there and I was like, well, if they play their 4-drop ZORO, they would then go to 7 cards. I move my cat out of the way, which is a fun fact. I do have 4 cats, if you did not know that. And one of them is named Big Mom, so fun story there. He 2 Dawn on leader. I'm like, he puts 4 Dawn on leader, and I'm like, holy cow. I'm gonna just take that, buddy. I didn't know you were like that. So we had to just take that. We're on our even curve, which is really awkward for this deck, but that's what we have Pudding for. And they have 7 cards in hand. I can Pudding and then swing 5, meaning they will only have 4 cards in hand, and then go back up to 5 when they draw a card. So we're okay with that, because we can't use the VV to draw. We don't have a 1 cost to play to put us down to the 5 card threshold, and then even if we did, we would still be at 6 cards. So Pudding, discard 2 cards, and then not even discard, you just reshuffle your whole deck and hope you get to search out the cards later. And I'm okay with that, because now it puts him in an awkward position. He discards a Sangoro being super strong, meaning that either he does not have Luffy Taro, or he has 2 Sangoros. And you have to keep that in mind, that I'm going off the assumption that if he plays Luffy Taro here, he has 2 Sangoros, of course. But if he doesn't, it's telling me he does not have Luffy Taro. So there's 2 sides of the coin here, and we'll just have to see what he chooses to play. He has 4 life, 6 Dawn active, and we'll see if there's anything they could do with it, because we saw last turn they didn't have anything, they were kind of bricked up, but we don't know if they had only big bodies in hand, which is what it looked like, so the Pudding may have really actually helped us take all their tempo. And we see this, we're like, what is God Thread? What is this card? Oh, are we even on 2x speed? That's why that last game felt so long, because we weren't on 2x speed. Now we are. So God Thread is KOs up to one of your opponent's cost 5 or lowers, then add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. So they get to ramp a Dawn and not take a life, which is really interesting. They have 2 additional Dawn now, and we'll just have to see what they can do with those 2 Dawn. Because you are Luffy, so you could play down a Nico Robin blocker, which is what I think they do. Leave 1 active because you're now at 8, guaranteeing that you still go up to 8 next turn, meaning you could play down the Big Mom or whatever. And we give them a Bonnie, because Bonnie's not really doing much for us right now, and this is the matchup that card will come into effect later. Now, I'm going to show you the strong card with this is going to be the Smoker, because they've taken us off tempo. They've taken our cards off the board. Not that they have much, but they're going to 10 Dawn on the next turn, which is actually crazy. They give us the second Sangoro, meaning they did have 2, but they didn't have Luffy Taro. Or they valued destroying a Pudding for more, and I really doubt that. We bottom decked that first search, I believe, because that was nothing that we needed. We don't need that many Smokers, and so we'll just keep going. But what we got to do is play down the Smoker on 6 Dawn, we played on the Smoker for 5, get 1 active, play out Deval, meaning we now have 7 Dawn, putting us on a similar purple tempo, meaning that we are ramping in a way. That card would do a lot more against Smoker here, which is very strong. We're going to just give him this one, because he could play a Rush Body here, which would be really bad for us. A personal opinion is that if he played the 9-drop Kaido, that would be the most difficult card, or a 9-drop Big Mom. That's what I would really be scared of, or a 9-drop Charlotte Linlin. And then I show you, hey, my cat is eating tape, and I don't know why I mentioned that, but you guys know how I am. He plays down ZORO, grabbing something from the deck, which I don't think we got to see there, but that's okay. He does play down another, he searched ZORO with ZORO to play out ZORO, kind of crazy. And he may just sit on 2 Dawn as active and say, hey, I've got 2 Gum Giants, what are you gonna do? And I'm gonna say Gravity Blade. I think Gravity Blade is gonna be a great option here. We won't have the blocker on the board, which does suck to not keep our Smoker protected if we choose to restand the Smoker, which I personally think we should, because it could force out 2 Gum Giants, putting them down 4 Dawn. But they use the blocker right there, so that means no Gum Giant. We'll swing 6 at them, and then we will use the effect to restand the Smoker, saying, hey, kill it. That's fine with me. Some people may say you could play Useless Captain Kid in this deck, which actually is not wrong, especially using the VV as the card that you could cheat out with Useless Captain Kid. Maybe something we play around with in the future. They give us the Gum Giant on this one, meaning they drop an Onami, they draw 2 cards. They only have 3 cards in hand, guys. So we're sitting in a good spot because we're about to clear their board as well. So do your worst. At this point, do your worst, which their worst would be, again, the 9-drop Rush Kaido, 9-drop Big Mom. Because here I'm sitting here, if they drop a Lin Lin, they put the Smoker on the bottom of our life, they swing 5, we take, they gain a life, going up to 4 life, we have no board, they have a 9-drop 9K, and we're back at square one. We're back at the beginning of the game where nothing really changed. I take a sip of water and I watch what he does. He swings 6 with leader possibly, which I think is pretty good. But the issue is, so what we say here is, if we counter 6 and they play a Rush Body, we can't counter out of that. But if we take the 6 and they swing the 10 into life, we can't counter out of that. So we have to take into account, would we rather have 3 life or 1 life and 1 body, or would we rather have 3 life and 0 bodies? And so in my opinion, in this situation, it was better to just accept the fact that he probably has the Rush Body, a 9 cost of some sort, either the Big Mom or the Luffy, to clear out our board. And now with Rush, we cannot counter out of this. We can, technically, but I don't think it would be smart. And he even ramps 1 extra. So now we would have to give him every single card from our hand to keep this body alive. That doesn't make sense for us, because now we can draw 2, we get the Bonnie, and this is where it's really good, because we were on Tendon, we played 3 for the VV, draw 2, we now play down the top decked Bonnie to freeze that Luffy, because this is not the same as the Boa, which says you cannot target Luffy, because Bonnie's not crazy about Luffy in the same ways, you know what I'm saying? So we get it on as active, we have Gavel, right guys? We're playing Gavel in this deck to mill the top of our deck, and I'm looking at this 9-drop Zoro, and I'm like, could we do it again? And I'm probably thinking no, because it's a little too slow in this situation, but we can go 7 and then bounce the VV back, and we're talking about all these different ideas, but really it depends on what our opponent does, and playing a Trafalgar Law shows me that the pudding really worked. I said it in the beginning of the game, which you couldn't hear, neither could I, honestly, but I do know I said this. After the pudding, we just won the game. At that point, that was the situation where we were put in a very good spot, and they swing 9 at us. I'll take that. They could swing 7 with the Law on the board, but instead they play a Useless Captain Kid. Getting a blocker on the board is really good in this situation, showing me that the Zoro is too slow, in my opinion, for this situation. So we're going to start with swinging 7. We're trying to think, is there a way we could bounce the VV back and then still put cards on the board to draw 2 more cards, filtering our hand and doing this and all that jazz. And I'm like, so the reason they blocked out there is so that they had to counter for less, because they want us to swing into this kid. That is the play they want us to go into. And so my thought process is, if I can't clear this kid and I swing into the kid, if they just have a 2K in hand, it doesn't really do anything for us. So I'm gonna sit here and decide whether I want to actually swing this kid or not. And so I think I will admit, possibly swing, I think I just swing into life here. I think swinging life is the better situation, because now they could just 2K out of it, or 1K out of this one and 2K out of the next one. They lose their whole hand, but they win on the clapback more than likely, right? So it's better to swing into a 6K, because now it guarantees a 2K. It's more cards out of hand. And we saw them search up the Usohachi with the Trafalgar Law, now showing that we're playing these tiny blockers, so we did not want them to have the Usohachi. They swing 7, they take, so now we're just about to go crazy. We're gonna play this, getting to choose what we search up, meaning we're gonna grab 2 1Ks. So we're going to play out the Rosinante, putting us to 6 cards in hand, playing out VV, which puts us down to 5, and then draw 2. And now we know there's a Hody Jones and 2 Tashigis at the top. So next turn, what I explained here, let me just slow it down for a second. So we have 3 blockers on the board, we have something to bounce back, and we have Hody Jones on the top of our deck. And so what I say here is, we don't need to draw that Hody Jones right now. We need it next turn. That's why we don't set that to the top. That's why we don't care about drawing it right now. We put it to the top, the very tippity top, because we didn't need that card this turn, we need it next turn. So why put less counter in hand when we've put them in the position that they have to win the game right here? They need to go for lethal, because we have, again, Hody Jones coming, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6K counter, 3 blockers on the board, and they have a 6, 10, 5, and 2 2s. We're very safe right now, and 2 life, we are very safe. They want to swing this, I'm just going to give you a chump blocker. And the reason we give that chump blocker is that the Rosinante, if they choose to rest the Rosinante, we can still use its effect if they swing into the Bonnie. So that's why we do that, in case they had a 3rd Usohachi. Or a Sanji, a 7-drop Rush Sanji, which I say here, the best option is to tap Duval, forcing us to block with the Rosinante. because the Rosinante has that additional effect for rested characters. So they should tap down our Duval here with the Sanji effect and basically try to either clear the Sanji or clear the Bonnie, which we can get out of, develop more blockers, which we can tap down, leave Dawn active for Gum Gum Giant, which we can tap down. We are in a very advantageous position at this point because we have so many lethal swings. And then he puts 3 on Law, and I think at this point he's kind of given up. He's had great plays, he's done everything he can, but I don't think 5 into 1 was worth it. If he would have swung 2 into 1, I would have given it up for free. So I don't think 5 into 1 was worth it. So we go ahead and counter out of the 6 to life. They want to swing 7. They're like, vibe check. And I'm like, vibes denied here. I'm just going to give you a 1k counter. I'm going to have triple 7s coming into your face and a 9k that's going to tap down your 1 blocker. So it's guaranteed lethal no matter what, because 7 they take. That puts them to 2 cards or 4 cards in hand. We're going to go 7 again because now we can do an additional 7. So we can go 7, 7, 9. So 7 would have to be 2 cards here, 7 would have to be 2 more cards, they'll have 0 cards in hand even if they had perfect counter, and then we swing for 9. So GG's right there, all they had was a 2k counter and my mustache is tickling my face. Nice. And just like I promised, here is our finalized deck list on the Roronoa Zoro and Sanji leader, which again, I really like this leader. I think it's a lot of fun. It's great aggro. You can definitely play like Warlord and all these other things, but in EB02, I think these are some of the strongest attackers in the game. With double banish and double freeze, I think these 2 cards are instrumental to the deck list. I think this being able to swing twice and then still restand itself as a blocker is amazing. We are playing so many amazing green options for this Tashigi to save us. This Bonnie was surprising. I don't think this is a 4 of in the deck, but I definitely don't think 2 of this card would be bad. I also don't think maybe playing the 5 cost instead would be bad either, because we have so many strong 5-drop plays though. I decided to go for 7 and see how it worked. It's definitely okay. I think this would be better if we played a more counter event heavy deck list with the Smoker right here, meaning we're always getting that Dawn back. So what you'll see is the instrumental part of this deck is our green cards are our strongest targets, right? These are the targets that we want on the board to be swinging other than this and this, right? This is going to save our green characters from dying. This is going to save them from dying and be a blocker. And this is going to help in the Bonnie matchup we'll talk about in just a second. Our blue cards are here for card draw and removal. That is all these are here. And the only removal is the Gravity Blade. This is a top 3 stacker. This is a draw 2 trash 1. This is a draw 2 trash 2. And this is just a draw 2. And this is just your opponent loses everything, all tempo, and the game's over. So I think our blue cards are our support and our green cards is our aggression, and it helps with our ability to freeze characters or have strong bodies you need to answer as soon as possible, forcing out our opponent's resources as a 4-life leader, keeping us alive. This is the only reason I play this deck list, or the only reason I play this Apu, because so many people are already commenting, why are you playing this card? It's for Jewelry Bonnie. Jewelry Bonnie is the most difficult matchup in the meta for this leader, and so I need to be able to tap down that extra Dawn, similar with the Hody Jones, because of our leader effect. This is a ×1 Dawn when attacking. So if I have this 7 cost Jewelry Bonnie on the board, and I swing for 7, they tap a Dawn and rest my leader, meaning that I no longer ever have a leader effect. I am playing a 4-life 5k power leader that has 2 cool, awesome colors, but doesn't do anything. So this is really important because what we do is put a Dawn on Scratchman Apu, swing, tap their Dawn, they have no leader effect available now, and then we can return this Apu to hand, and you have to play this. It's an amazing 2k counter, but it's really instrumental in that deck list. It can also help with the purple matchups when we don't find our Hody Jones, and then it's also just a 2k counter, which is always amazing support for the deck list. I really hope you guys enjoyed that one. I definitely did. Again, this deck list got one of my best friends in the world to start playing One Piece, and so I really love this leader. It means a lot to me in my One Piece, how long I've been playing One Piece. This is one of the first leaders that we really got into, so I definitely think this is something to work on moving forward, but I definitely love this deck list and this leader. As always, guys, don't forget to join the Discord, the One Piece family. Come hang out some more because we'll definitely be back with many more deck lists and some more fun ideas, such as I am setting up at a card show this weekend. I can give you guys more insight on the selling of cards, TCG player, and stuff like that. if you ever wanted informational videos like that, just let me know, because I sell on TCG Player, I sell online, I literally do this all full time. I actually run card shows in North Carolina. For the people who don't know that about me, I literally have a business where I run card show events. So if you guys want the insights to that stuff, I can supply it. I can give you just a full life of me, Mr. Pow, but it would be something only if you want it. If you just want to stick to One Piece content, I love making it, and I love you guys for loving it and subscribing to the channel and joining the Discord. But if there's other stuff you ever want to see, you just have to let me know, because I love making content, I love hanging out, I love editing. It's actually one of my favorite pastimes. So as always, guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out, having fun. I love you and your mama. Peace.